Your claim is bigger than the evidence. A direct response to T.J. Barron's. Your opening moves do not match the facts. T.J., I read your answer and noticed a pattern that appears in many defenses of abiogenesis and evolution. You take familiar words like life and non-life and treat them as if they prove the origin of life. You use examples from farming to show variation within a species, but you call it evolution. You talk with confidence, but you never present evidence that meets the standards of the scientific method. I am not calling you dishonest. I am saying your statements never clear the bar that science itself demands. Abiogenesis is not observed anywhere. You said abiogenesis is an observed fact. That is not true in any scientific sense. Observed means we have seen it happen or can reproduce it. No lab has turned non-living chemicals into a living cell with a self-sustaining genetic system and controlled metabolism. Not once, not even close. A list of atoms on the periodic table does not equal life. A list of parts does not equal a running machine. Elements exist everywhere, yet life does not. If abiogenesis were an observed fact, the origin of life field would not admit that it has neither a model nor a mechanism. You stretch the word, life, to claim victory. You said that since atoms are non-living and life is made of atoms, then abiogenesis is proven. That is a word trick, not evidence. A car is made of metal, but metal does not build a car. A computer is made of silicon, but silicon does not assemble itself into a working CPU. Life is defined by replication, metabolism, and the information encoded and read within a cell. None of that has been seen to arise from non-living matter without intelligent action. Your definition collapses the entire debate into grammar. Darwinian evolution still depends on a first cell. You say evolution is separate from abiogenesis. You treat evolution as if it stands on its own. But evolution needs a living, reproducing organism before anything can begin. If the origin cannot be explained, the process built on top of it loses its foundation. You cannot claim a car drives well if you cannot show how the engine is built. You cannot call the foundation irrelevant. If the origin of life cannot be produced or tested, then the entire structure becomes a chain of assumptions. Variation in farming is not evidence for the theory. You point to farmers breeding animals as proof of evolution. That is not evolution. That is a selection from existing genetic information. No new gene system appears. No new body plan emerges. Every example you gave points to the loss of diversity. Every breeding program narrows the gene pool. This shows limits, not expansions. Calling this evolution confuses adaptation with the origin of new biological systems. Genetics does not explain the arrival of new information. You talk about alleles as if they appear by magic. Mutations do not create new complex systems. They damage or alter what already exists. Even the most pro-evolution geneticists admit that mutation does not produce the novel biological machinery required by Darwinian theory at the scale needed. You assume the existence of information and then treat its rearrangement as proof of its origin. Claiming evolution is a fact does not make it. So, you say evolution is the accumulation of alleles at different frequencies. That is only a description of variation. It says nothing about the rise of eyes, blood, immune systems, or consciousness. You take an observation of a small change and use it to defend a claim of unlimited change. Small shifts do not explain the origin of complex systems. You cannot stretch micro change into macro change just because both use the same word. Your Bible examples do not support your argument. You said the Bible shows evolution because a farmer selects animals. That is not evolution. That is selective breeding. The Bible does not teach Darwinian change. It describes variation within created kinds. You take a simple practice and try to force it into a scientific claim that it does not support. You never use the scientific method. You repeat claims, but never provide test predictions or falsifiable statements. That is the heart of the scientific method. To claim something as fact without testable evidence turns science into a belief system. At every point, you shift the burden of proof. That is control, not science. Control of language, control of definitions, and control of the frame of debate. Confidence does not replace demonstration. TJ, you wrote a long answer, but none of it proves that non-living matter can create a living cell. None of it shows that random mutation and selection can build new biological systems. None of it indicates that Darwinian mechanisms explain the origin of life. You rely on tone, authority, and analogy. That is not evidence. Your framework depends on people not questioning you. When you claim abiogenesis is an observed fact without any observation, you are asking the reader to trust you. When you say evolution is proven because farmers breed animals, you are asking the reader to overlook details. That is how control works in debates like this. Control the language, control the terms, control the frame. The moment we return to basic scientific standards, the claims fall apart. Conclusion. I am not rejecting science. I am requesting evidence that aligns with the scientific method. Abiogenesis has no such evidence. Evolution has limits and gaps, even leading scientists admit. Your confidence hides the fact that none of the core claims have been demonstrated in a lab or through repeatable tests. If we remove the assumptions, your answer has no foundation left. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to support this channel.